Hello Oscar, how are you? It's Grandpa here and somebody you'll recognise, Moosey. So Moosey, where are you going? Moosey, have you been good? Yep, I've been good. I've been really good. And isn't it nice to be talking to Oscar? Yep, that's great. And he's a great chap, isn't he, Moosey? Yeah, you love him dearly. So it's hello from Grandpa, Moosey and Granny, of course. And we hope that you're having a good day. Oscar, it was lovely to see you yesterday and to see you playing with your little sister. So we're going to finish off the lucky snow leopard today. It's a lovely story, isn't it? And if you'll remember, the three snowy snow leopard babies were born on Christmas Day, and they were three little sisters for Ali, and isn't that lovely? And Ali was so excited because he'd learnt that playing with the ball that Zoe gave him meant that he would be able to play with his little sister. So it's, you know, he'll always have someone to play with. Oscar, just like you have, you'll always have Annabelle to play with. Isn't that so nice? And it's lovely to see you playing with her yesterday. So we've now got to the final chapter of the Lucky Snow Leopard, and it is Snowy Sisters. Look, there's Ali, I think, or one of the little babies. Zoe watched as Leela cleaned the babies' little heads carefully with her tongue. Ali purred loudly as she leaned over and gave him a big lick too. "See, Ali," said Zoe, smiling, "you're still just as important to your mum, even now the babies are here." "What are they going to be called?" chirped Meep. Leela looked at Ali and gave a gentle growl. Ali's eyes opened very wide and Zoe grinned. "Ali, you're allowed to choose their names. You're so lucky. What are you going to call them?" Ali looked at his sisters, wrinkling his nose up as he thought. Then his ears pricked up and he meowed excitedly. "Those are lovely names, Ali," Zoe exclaimed, "and they're perfect for babies born on Christmas Day. Listen, Meep and I have to go back and tell everyone the news. We'll be back as soon as we can." Zoe raced back to the cottage, shouting to all her animal friends as she passed them. "The snow leopard babies are here, 3 girl cubs." "Tell everyone," added Meep, dashing along next to her. They burst into the cottage and made everyone jump. Look, there's Zoe and Meep bursting into the cottage and making everyone jump. "Zoe, there you are," said Lucy. "We're just about to have pudding," said Lucy, scooping trifle into bowls. "Come and sit down." "I can't, the snow leopard cubs have been born," Zoe gasped, breathless from running so fast. Lucy dropped her spoon and Great Uncle Horace and Mr. Pinch leapt up from the table. "I don't believe it," said Lucy, grabbing her coat and her special new vet bag. "Quick, we better run over to check they're okay." They hurried back along the path, following the footprints Zoe and Meep had already made in the snow. Kiki flew ahead of them, squawking eagerly. By now the zoo was alive with excited roars, hoots, grunts and whinnies, woo, and lots of the animals were chatting to their neighbours about the new arrivals. Zoe couldn't wait to talk to them all about the cubs later. When they got back to the enclosure, Kiki was perched on the fence and Ali was waiting for them at the gate. Everyone climbed up to the cave and peeped inside. The babies had fallen asleep, cuddled up together in a fluffy heap, their little bellies marked with tiny dark spots, rising and falling. Leela was watching them proudly. "Oh, they're beautiful," whispered Lucy. "I wonder what we should call them." There's a lovely picture of Leela and the 3 cubs. Isn't that gorgeous? And there's Lucy and Zoe looking in the cave. "I've already thought of some names," Zoe said quickly. "Snowy, Holly and Ivy." Ooh, I'm knocking the camera around. "Snowy, Holly and Ivy. Aren't they lovely names, Oscar?" "Excellent Christmas names," exclaimed Great Uncle Horace. "I wonder if Leela will let me check them," Lucy said hopefully. "I think she will," said Zoe, glancing at Leela, and the big leopard gave a friendly purr. Very carefully, Lucy picked the first sleeping cub up. "It's a girl," she smiled. "She looks perfect. She's so soft." Snow leopard cubs are always born with a full coat of their beautiful fur, Great Uncle Horace told Zoe. They won't open their eyes for the first week of their lives, just like a kitten. But when they do, I bet they'll be a beautiful bright blue, just like their mother's. That's just like Annabelle's eyes, isn't it, Oscar? She's got blue eyes. And their big brothers, added Zoe, smiling over at Ali, who gave a happy meow. Zoe noticed Mr. Pinch wiping his eyes and pulling a handkerchief out of his sleeve. Are you all right, Mr. Pinch? She asked. Mr. Pinch sneezed twice and blew his nose noisily. I'm allergic to cats, he explained. It sounded like he had a bad cold. Zoe held her breath and waited for Mr. Pinch to grumble and moan crossly. But instead he reached out to one of the little cubs to give one of the little cubs a stroke. They are rather sweet, Mr. Pinch said, smiling. What a day. I suppose Christmas isn't so bad after all, Mr. Pinch added quietly. I think this has to be the best Christmas ever, announced Great Uncle Horace. Zoe picked Meep up and gave him a cuddle. And living at the rescue zoo makes me the luckiest girl ever, she whispered. I wonder what adventures will happen at the zoo next year. There we are, and there's Zoe giving Meep a cuddle. Wasn't that a lovely story, Oscar, the lucky snow leopard? And I thought you might like another story. So this time we're going to read about the Playful Panda. Whoa. Have you seen pandas before? I think they mostly live in China, don't they? But you probably know all about that. So, this little preface to this story is Zoe peeped inside the crate. She could just make out a fluffy black and white bundle. The bundle wriggled, and Zoe grinned in delight. There were two adorable creatures, cuddled up, asleep together. So that's just to tell us what we can expect, Oscar. So there's a picture of Zoe and Meep, and the first chapter says a treat for Daisy. Zoe Parker grinned as she raced down the path. It was Saturday morning at the rescue zoo, and Zoe was on her way to visit some of her favourite animals. Halfway down the path, she stopped at a wooden gate and reached for the pretty silver paw print charm on her necklace. This was no ordinary necklace. It opened the door to every single enclosure in the rescue zoo. That's amazing, isn't it, Oscar? It had been a present from her great uncle Horace, who had built the zoo, and Zoe never took it off. She held the charm against a small panel on the gate, and with a quiet click, it swung open. Zoe walked into a warm, wide plain covered in tall grass and lush trees. Just beyond the gate was the house where the giraffes slept, a tall red brick building with a high arched doorway. Zoe shaded her eyes from the sunshine and saw the herd gathered at the other end of the enclosure, drinking from a sparkling stream. By the gate stood a wheelbarrow full of fresh straw and a large garden fork. The giraffe keeper, Frankie, had promised Zoe she could help out this morning, and everything she needed was ready for her. Zoe grabbed the wheelbarrow and pushed it into the giraffe house. She picked up the fork and began lifting the straw out, spreading it carefully on the ground so that the giraffes would have clean, comfortable bedding that night. Oh, that sounds nice, doesn't it, Oscar? Look, there's a picture of Zoe using the pitchfork to put the hay out. Zoe hummed happily as she worked, enjoying the warm breeze and wondering where her best friend had got to. He had dashed off along the path in front of her that morning, too excited to slow down. Suddenly the straw in the wheelbarrow started to wriggle. Zoe watched curiously as it shook from side to side. Then a furry little head popped out and a pair of huge golden eyes blinked at her. Meep, laughed Zoe. There you are, you naughty thing. Look, Meep got in the wheelbarrow with the straw. Silly Meep. With a cheerful chirp, the tiny creature sprang out of the wheelbarrow and climbed up onto Zoe's shoulder, sending bits of straw everywhere. Meep was a grey mouse lemur. He was very small, with a long curling tail and soft, delicate ears that stuck up in the air. He'd come to the zoo when he was just a baby and lived with Zoe and her mum in their cottage. I wonder where you disappeared to, Meep. You're supposed to be helping me tidy the giraffe enclosure. Not making a mess? Zoe shook her head but couldn't help smiling. The little lemur was so cute that she could never really tell him off. As she finished spreading out the straw, Zoe heard a gentle bray behind her and turned around. The youngest member of the giraffe herd, Daisy, had come over to greet them. She was just a few months old, but she was still more than twice as tall as Zoe. Can you imagine how tall a giraffe is, Oscar? "Morning, Daisy," called Zoe. The graceful giraffe trotted over and Zoe put down her fork and reached up to stroke her long, slender neck. Every giraffe had a different pattern of special markings and helped Zoe tell them apart. She knew this was Daisy from the pretty star shape on her forehead. "Why, Mum, look," cried an excited voice from the path. "A baby giraffe, and there's a girl stroking her." The zoo gates must have opened to the public while Zoe was working, because a family of visitors had walked up to the fence. A lady was pushing a bright blue buggy with a toddler sitting inside, clapping his little hands happily. Next to them was a red-haired girl, a bit younger than Zoe, wearing a giraffe t-shirt and holding her dad's hand. She was gazing in amazement at Zoe and Daisy. Zoe smiled at her, and Meep chattered a friendly greeting. So there we are. There's Zoe, look. And she's with the little Daisy giraffe. And there's the family who've come to visit the zoo and see her. Wow. The girl smiled back shyly, her eyes wide. "Are you a zookeeper?" she asked Zoe. Zoe giggled. "Maybe one day," she said. "I'm Zoe. This is Meep. My great-uncle Horace is the owner of the Rescue Zoo." "Oh, you mean Horace Higgins. I've heard of him," said the girl's mum. "He's a famous explorer, isn't he?" her dad added. Zoe nodded. "He met so many hurt, lost or frightened animals on his adventures that he decided to build the Rescue Zoo. Now it's a safe place for any creature that needs a home," she explained. "Great-uncle Horace still travels around the world looking for animals to help. Sometimes he's away for months, and we never know when he's going to come back. My mum's the Rescue Zoo vet. We live in a little cottage here in the zoo, so she can treat any animal whenever they need her. And I spend as much time with the animals as I can, especially at the weekends." That would be fun, wouldn't it, Oscar? Fancy that. Maybe you could get a part-time job down at the wildlife park when you're a bit bigger and help out with the animals. There's a thought. I expect you'd like that. "I can't believe you live here," the girl said wistfully. "You're so lucky." "I know," said Zoe, beaming. She was very proud of her special home. "And are the giraffes your favourite?" the girl's mum asked. "Amy here loves giraffes. She was so excited about seeing them, so this is the first enclosure we came to." Zoe smiled. "Would you like to feed Daisy?" she asked. "She's already had lots of acacia leaves for breakfast, but I have an apple here that you can give her as a treat." Amy's mouth dropped open. "Really?" she pleased. "I would love to." Well, Oscar, we'll have to stop there because we're a little bit running out of time, but we'll find out what happened when the little Amy went to feed Daisy. That sounds really exciting, doesn't it? Anyway, it's been lovely to see you and to read to you. And Grandpa and Granny send our love, Oscar, to you, little Annabelle, and Mummy and Daddy, and also from Moosey. Moosey, you been good, Moosey? You have been good. Moosey's always good, to be fair, Oscar. So we will say goodbye, and we'll read to you again soon. Bye. Bye.